Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is currently Monday, February 24th, 2014. This is Day 9 Daily number 683 and a half, where I allege that we will learn to be a better gamer today. Although I am bad at my job, let me explain to you why. I said that there was a big, special, surprise, fun little event going on tonight. I was going to replace Fun Day Monday. Tomorrow's actually scheduled to be Fun Day Tuesday, so we don't miss out on any Fun Day Monday action. But guess what happened? There was no event at all tonight, and I don't know why I thought there was. I called the fine individual who would be coordinating things, and it wasn't just the wrong day of the week. I was like wrong by like months. This is as bad of a misschedule as I have ever done, except the time when my brother bought a plane ticket for the wrong year. Oh, that's right. Remember, if you get a D, all you gotta do is find the kid in class who got a D- and be like, yes! That's it. So, I originally was planning no show tonight, but then I found out today that I totally am going to do a show tonight. So let's do the 683rd and a half episode. It is the only fractional episode of the daily. So I'm very excited about that. Let me go ahead and get my water. I left it over here. Let me tell you what the show's about today. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at Swarmhosts used not passively. Traditionally, when we think of the Swarmhost, we think of games that take 3 hours and 45 minutes. Hi, Firecake. Games that never end, games in which Swarmhosts are surrounded by a sea of spore crawlers, vipers, and other assorted pastries, such as a queen, my favorite pastry. And the reason this works is because it's an endless stream of free units, and Protoss units are markedly not free. And eventually, the Zerg wins. That is the way that we see Swarmhosts used to frustrate. But the Swarmhosts do have other uses for awesomeness. Ooh. And even though I've been on the other side of Swarmhosts in many of the recent shows, showing how to defeat it with Protoss, showing Mech going up against it, even being able to exploit it there, here we're going to look at Mousesport's Vortix. I think formerly Mousesport's Vortix? I don't know. He has Mouse in his name. Oh my god, it's the HGL overlay. Oh my god, you're going to see the time. Oh god. Oh god. Look, this whole episode is a disaster. What a crisis this is, but don't worry, because the tools we use for analysis will be able to bang away at this game, generating knowledge. Anyways, Vortix has Mouse in his name here, so I'm just going to assume it's Mousesport's Vortix. Ta-da! We're going to see Vortix do a style of Zerg that's becoming very popular. It's using lings and roaches, first to defend against aggression, but once that's defended, this is all used for counterattacking, pressuring, and whatnot. And then in the middle, to help us stay alive, are the Swarmhosts. As a very nice stability tool that we can then step up to Guardians. Shit, Broodlords. Yeah, Broodlords. Ling Roach for the harassment. Swarmhosts for the défensement. Broodlords for the winment. To do this, we're going to look at 2 games from Vortix. We'll talk about maps that it's good on, maps it's bad on, and I want to emphasize those big 3 concepts. Ling Roach for defense/harassment into Swarmhosts in the mid-game as a stepping stone to Guardians. Did it on purpose that time. The reason I want to emphasize that is because it's very easy in StarCraft 2 to get stuck on builds. It's very easy to be at any level of league, in any weird situation where you don't really know what to do when you get thrown off kilter, and it's very easy to use the notion of the 3 phases in order to step up. We're actually going to begin with a game that has a very odd sort of twist at the start of the game, so we can truly see how flexible this thinking winds up being. And I think that this is an extremely elegant example of why this 3-step process works. The 1, 2, 3 punch, Roachling for harassment, Swarmhosts in the middle, and Guardians at the end. Broodlords. I know we're going to learn on a Monday, that's so weird, but don't worry, tomorrow on Fun Day Tuesday we will be taking a look at the stupidest StarCraft games of all time. So the map is Heavy Rain. This is a map where we've seen Swarmhosts do well and we've seen them struggle. Things like, say, Swarmhosts being planted right here, shooting all the way, or excuse me, I'm in the wrong spot on the mini-map. Right here, shooting all the way at this expansion. Suffers greatly when a Protoss player moves up this right flank here. Obviously because the Swarmhost Locust can't quite go across these gaps very well at all. But because it's these nice lines, these nice line paths, it's very easy for the Swarmhost here to just create a line of Locusts and kill off everything that tries to hit the Swarmhost. So there are reasons why people would like Swarmhosts on this map, but obviously Broodlords are going to have a little bit more utility because if we have Broodlords here, once again, we have that same idea of shooting in a line, but if we see an army moving up this right path, we can easily just sort of float our way across and use this as a means to shoot down and all that sort of stuff. Vortix is playing against Baby Knight. This is from the WCS Group C. Both these players managed to advance out, and I really think that these are two of the absolute tip-top players in Europe. I love watching them play. Great human beings, although I don't know Vortix very well. I've only spoken to him briefly, but Baby Knight, chatted quite a bit more with, and he is awesome. So we're going to see Vortix do something outside the ordinary. Vortix identifies not a fast nexus. Vortix has gone for pool hatch. Traditional logic says Vortix should be expanding here at 415. 3 base Zerg versus 2 base Protoss, right? Or maybe even here would be the only decision that a Zerg would make early. Do I want to expand here or do I want to expand here? Instead, we're going to see a very unusual play. Coming out of Vortix, he's not going to opt to go for this third. Which I think is very funky, but we'll see its utility come up in a little bit. So here's where I want to talk about guiding principles a good bit. Actually, let me just show you of him getting the gas. Vortix is going for 4 queen opening. We see a queen getting produced here. We see a queen getting produced here. And you know what we're going to see? A queen getting produced here. I think. It might be at the other location. Nope, sorry, I miscounted. It is going to be 3. But here's the big moment that kind of makes me do the little dog turn the head thing. 5-minute double gas. Normally, when we see a Zerg player do this, we think he's doing something very tech-focused, something like fast Mutalisks. Something like maybe fast infestor upgrades. Anything along those lines. What we don't think about is a player going into Roach, then Swarmhosts. Because Roach-based plays tend to be very much so about mass Roaches. It tends to be about getting that third base up so you can get a 4th macro hatch so you can overrun him with countless streams of Roaches. But remember, this Ling Roach that we said was used for defense is not just to crush with overwhelming numbers. It's used for counterattacking harassment. We're going to see this come up and be used beautifully. I'll also note that the Ling Roach is used to defend against counterattacks and harassment, being so super duper fast. So Baby Knight is doing one of his usual plays, going for very fast 4-gate for a little bit of aggression. And right out the gate, there we go, there's the 4th queen coming out. Right out the gate, Vortix just techs right on up, has all of his units, or his overlords spread out gorgeously along this mini-map, is checking for proxy pylons, has good monitoring on his enemy with this incoming overlord to check out everything that is abound. But Vortix is not really under any pressure. Normally these fast gateway pushes succeed because they can shut down the 3rd base. So Baby Knight does a great job of recognizing, well, wait a minute, I don't think that there's a 3rd base anywhere here. So Baby Knight elects not to over-warp in units. He just checks that there's no 3rd, and he pulls right back home. Chrono boosts on the Nexus. Very nice reads by Baby Knight here. But we can see Vortix, by virtue of going for this very fast 2-base play with 4 queens, is completely defended. There's only a handful of lings getting produced. So this is a weird build cancel thing. I think it was just a misclick. I never got the chance to see what it was, but we see pieces to one of these rather fast roach plays, or rather fast upgrade plays right away. When I was watching this, I was kind of, I guess, doing what most people were doing at the commentary and the chat watching this game, saying, what the hell is Vortix doing? Baby Knight is doing a lot of very smart response moves. I see Overlords and no third, so I'm just going to use my Mothership Core and these Zealots to go pick off Overlords to pick up value. But let's stop for a moment and think about the position Vortix is in right when we hit 8 minutes. We're going to see all the rest of these upgrades pan out. There's Roach Speed coming out extremely early on. How excellent. Doink. I'm going to go ahead and stop right here, 8 minutes. Let's take a global look, at Vortix's worldview. He's up against an opponent who's got some gateways, and obviously is killing off some of his overlords. So things are getting thrown off for sure. Even though an overlord only registers as 100 minerals on the unit's loss tab, feels a lot worse than that, doesn't it? Ooh, it feels bad. When you get that red supply, I am fucking up. Everything feels horrific. That big red number, right when you wanted to build your favorite unit, your Stargate just finished, it's time to build a Phoenix. A pylon diamond red supply. Oh my god, it's a crisis. It's like when a crush turns you down. You weren't even dating, you didn't have a relationship. But you said, hey, you want to go out? She's like, no. You're like, oh! Oh, I've lost what could have been, right? I didn't really lose anything, but it feels bad, right? So Vortix, I bring all this up because Vortix has been messed with hard. This is not an elegant build going completely gorgeously smoothly. This is something that would go as messy as someone who maybe doesn't ladder very much, whose fundamentals and mechanics can get thrown off a little bit, but still we see the money amount of drones to be able to get at least 22 in each location. And watch this cool, sweet shit. Very fast burrow. One thing that our hero Vortix knows is that there's only so much that his Protoss opponent can be up to. There's really only so much. He can't be getting Stargate units to do huge amounts of harassment and taking a third and having a robo and going Twilight Council tech. Sure, Protosses will do that eventually, but our tech is quite early. Vortix's tech, this Glider Constitution, is coming out quite soon. Much sooner than it would ordinarily be popping out. So this Overseer, another wonderful benefit of going for a fast layer, gets the opportunity to check out everything. Okay, cool. Stargate, well, that instantly means, for Vortix, that he's unlikely to be up against a lot of Immortals. He's unlikely to be up against a lot of Colossi. The Robo facility is delayed. He's unlikely to be up against a lot of things. This expand timing is not reactive. This is just when you can afford it. And we're going to see not mass roaches. Oops, wrong button. We see 9 roaches, a few more getting produced. And Tunneling Claws is going down as well. Now here's something that we don't see every day. The Protoss Nexus going down at about the same time as the hatch. Or the third hatch. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, and usual defense, Spore Crawler. There's not big corners being cut by Vortix. He's playing this pretty straight up. But now we get to see these roaches used in a very elegant fashion. 15 roaches, let me count the total. 15 plus 2 is 17, nice. But as this base is going up, I mean, Vortix just goes straight for the Infestation Pit. Going straight for the Swarmhosts. We also see missile attacks. Gonna work well with the Locusts, for sure. Now, it depends on the map that you're playing on. On this particular map, this is a very spread out attack angles, but it can be pretty straightforward to just hit 2 places at once that are spread out with roaches. The big thing, these roaches have burrow, and we're looking to batter our enemy down. Now, as a general concept, if you are not ahead of the Protoss in economy, something's going wrong as Zerg. Zerg should be able to get ahead of the Protoss in terms of economy in those opening phases of the game. So one way that Protosses do it is by going, or excuse me, one way that Zergs do it is by going for a fast third. Here Vortix says, oh, I didn't get the fast third up. So you know what, I'm just going to go kill things. Like probes. Follow your nose. And this is actually a relatively high percentage play because we can always walk up, kill off the photon cannon, and burrow. If scary things arrive, we can kill off pylons. And here Vortix is able to use burrow really effectively. Killing off the cannons, he can now kill off Loikas. Nice. Now we see a couple roaches getting replenished, but in the meantime, Vortix actually got a few drones. He's starting to get a nice mixture. He just wants to always be able to have both enough droning to be improving his economy, enough roaches to be able to harass. And I mean, 2 groups of 10, 2 groups of 8, little things like this can be extremely useful. Just little rules of thumb. And I don't know if you know this, but burrow roaches move so fast. Dude, they're insane. They are crazy. It's like a charging burrowed zealot. So by splitting his enemy up in so many different locations, Vortix is able to get some real value. And we see that 6 workers killed, that number is going to go up. Force fields don't matter. Note that force fields are kind of irrelevant now that you have tunneling claws. The regen rate is super high for roaches while burrowed. That's one of the least known elements of StarCraft 2, is the rapid regeneration for burrowed roaches. So yeah, sweet. I still remember when you could get that Hive Tech roach upgrade that just gave it like stupidly fast regeneration. I mean, look at this. Burrowed roaches can practically outrun everything. There's those burrowed roaches. Those bastards at work again. So this is cool. On the backside, we see, at this very moment, Vortix has only just put units into gas here. Just put units into gas here. And we see the locusts coming up on in. So the drone count never really swole up huge to 65. Or excuse me, to 66. I should be precise. Or even to the 80 or 90 that we see players like Jaedong or Demaga go for. Vortix was able to just kind of go for like a half and half play. Some roaches, some drones, and all of it pulled Baby Knight hard to the defensive side of things. A force field to block roaches from getting in here, absolutely not going to happen. These have burrow. And we see this 4th hatch gets to come down as a result of this. Very often, I will say that very often when players do this, roach into Swarmhosts, into Broodlord play, we typically see just enough roaches there for defense. And then the Zerg player will really delay the 4th because they instantly go into Swarmhosts. Again, without enough roaches to be able to defend a 4th base, we probably shouldn't take it, right? But this is what I like about using that Ling Roach army to be very active, to be moving out along the map. Because getting Swarmhosts early is never really a big threat to Protoss. Having Swarmhosts in big numbers, now that is a threat to Protoss. So what we're going to see here is Vortix go for the big Swarmhosts amount, not the fast Swarmhost amount. And using these just really sexy roach burrow tactics are fantastic. Oh, there's a question in chat about will burrowed roaches feel move faster burrowed on creep. I have no idea. I don't know what the movement ratio is like for roaches that are burrowed underneath creep. See how strong this is? Now, Baby Knight is trying to answer as best he can. But normally, the best answer to roaches is actually force fields. It's generally just immortals and force fields. Stalkers in small numbers with force fields are great. But with this roach burrow, suddenly Baby Knight has to build a lot of immortals or a lot of stalkers. He just has to get a lot of things that can deal with the roach in straight-on bouts, because of the fact that they're hyper-maneuverable. I think one roach heals faster than a zealot deals damage, which is pretty awesome. So while all this has been going on, I mean, this is just generally good control. While all this has been going on, Vortix has killed 35 workers. So indeed, we see the Swarmhost count just sort of erupt all of a sudden up to 15. And the next tool, the Spire, popping on up into things. And at any point in time, Vortix has about 20 or so roaches. Now, you may have heard me say roaches are not really threatening. Oh, look at that. Look at all the counterattacks that the roaches are doing. Roaches are not really, Swarmhosts are not really threatening when they come out fast. They're threatening when they come out in large numbers. So Vortix is basically rallying all these Swarmhosts, all these locusts down this left side. Why is that? Because this army checked the right side, moves like this over to here. So this is now covered, so all he has to do is worry about an army coming from the south, which, if we go to the Everyone tab, we see, hey, good, there's nothing there. It's all clear. So coming back to the Vortix cam, and back to the game cam, we can see Vortix has set himself up nicely. Here's a layer coming. It's actually a pretty early layer. It's at 16, pretty early hive. It's going down at about 16 minutes. But in the grand scheme of things, this just feels like a very, very nice time. Now that Vortix has a lot of Swarmhosts, and has sort of set up this history of being aggressive, look at how nicely and cleanly he can push this backside. And because of these sort of counterattack tactics that we see being used out of Vortix, I mean, this is what really makes me love Heavy Rain as a map. This is a really dangerous position to be in. You heard me talk about how Stalkers and Immortals had to be made to deal with those burrowed roaches. This is the opposite of valuable now that there's a lot of Swarm Hosts. Also note, by getting this single evolution chamber up so early, we have gotten 2-1 upgrades from a single place. Very, very nice. Actually, extremely damn nice. So Vortix right now. He's only just gotten, I think that's his first Colossus. Yeah, there's one. So this is sort of the stage setting that we see out of Vortix, and we see out of many Zerg players these days. This not defensively minded roach play to allow for not defensively minded Swarmhost play. Too often Swarmhosts are just sitting in a pile of defensive structures, hoping to stay alive for all time. But here it's really bringing the noise to Baby Knight, and that always makes me happy, because it feels Zergy. So when we come back in part 2, we're going to see how Vortix closes out this game with his transition to Broodlord, and then we're going to load up another game from Vortix, where he will actually lose to Baby Knight, so we can see sort of how it works and doesn't work. Going on a break.